Alright, what's up guys? I'm back tonight with a second video for the day. I'm going to be matchmaking and predicting the fights upcoming in the lightweight division. So I'm going to say which guys I think should be fighting who and how's the fight's going to play out. So looking at the rankings, we obviously have Islam Makhachev at the champion. Number 1, Arman. Down, you can see it on the left. So let's get right into it. The first matchup to make is obvious. We got Arman Tsarukyan versus Islam Makhachev, the rematch. Now, this fight went down in 2017, if you didn't know. Arman Tsarukyan was making his UFC debut at 22 years old. Islam was 27, I believe. And although it was one of the more competitive fights in Islam's UFC career, Arman did lose a unanimous decision. Arman was just a step behind. He was able to take Islam down one time, but Islam controlled the grappling exchanges for the most part and just seemed to be the more well-rounded fighter, I'd say. And I still think that holds true today. I do think that both guys have made improvements, but I think that Islam is just the best right now. And I don't think any version of Arman beats Islam. Arman, he's not known for his power, so he's not really threatening on the feet. I know he KO'd Dariush, but Dariush doesn't have a chin. So I think Islam is just a better version of Arman. Arman just probably has better pure wrestling, but everywhere else, Islam clears, in my opinion. So I will be taking Islam by a decision in the second fight as well. Let's move on to the next matchup I'd like to see in the lightweight division. Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway, the rematch. Now, if you don't know, these guys actually fought at featherweight. And it was a weird fight because it went on for a couple rounds. And then Charles Oliveira actually got an esophagus injury. And the fight was stopped. So it was stopped due to injury. And we never really got to see a conclusive end to the fight. Max Holloway's permanently moving to the lightweight division. So I would love to see a rematch versus him and Charles. How would patient Charles or high IQ Charles do against a lightweight Max who isn't cutting a featherweight anymore? It's an intriguing matchup. I don't think Charles deserves a title shot yet. I think guys need to be on a win streak to get a title shot. He only has one win in a row against a guy who's already beaten Michael Chandler. I love Charles Oliveira, but he needs to do more for another title shot. So book him versus Max in the rematch. I want to see this maybe in the summertime of next year, or maybe like April. We'll see when Max is ready. Let's move on to the next matchup I'd like to see. Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier 3. Now, guys, I know a lot of people are going to say, dude, you want the trilogy? They've already fought twice. Yes, but it feels unfinished. Poirier finished Gaethje in the first one. Gaethje finished Poirier in the second one. Poirier really wants to get this fight back. He's expressed this on Twitter and other interviews. He wants to fight Justin Gaethje again. They're both coming off losses. Justin Gaethje's taking a long time off. I think maybe this could be Poirier's retirement fight. Can he come back and get one over on Justin Gaethje again? They can settle it in the trilogy. Who's the better fighter? They both have a win over each other. Both have a finish. So yeah, man, I think this fight sells itself. It can go in the main card of any pay-per-view. Number 3 versus number 4. They're both in similar parts in their career. I think they're both going to retire soon. So book the trilogy, UFC. I need to see it. Not for any BMF belt either. I don't want to see the BMF belt anymore. That belt's cringe. Either way, I need to see this fight. And to predict who would win, I'd pick Dustin. And the way he looked against Islam, I know Gaethje got that head kick KO in the second fight, but I'd pick Dustin to win the trilogy. I think Dustin will go out there and finish Gaethje in the third fight. Let's get on to the next matchup I would love to see in the lightweight division. Michael Chandler versus Fakham. Now, this might come as a shocker, but listen, the UFC has done Michael Chandler plenty of favors. He's 2-4 in the UFC. Listen, I know he's exciting. He's screaming on the mic to fight Conor McGregor after losing to Charles, which was pretty cringe. But listen, man, it's time to defend your spot. You've been hovering in the top 5 and top 7 of the UFC rankings, going 2-4 in the division for the last 3 years. And I think Michael Chandler, it's time to give him for him to give an up-and-comer a chance. Fakham on a 4-fight win streak. He just brutally KO'd Matt Frevola. Let's see if he can crack into the top 7 by beating Michael Chandler. Let's get some new blood in the rankings. Tired of seeing the same guys recycled over and over. Lightweight's feeling like it's stale lately. I need some new blood in the rankings. Michael Chandler versus Fakham. Book it. I would pick Fakham to win. Michael Chandler's getting up there. He's 38, going to be 39 next year. He didn't look great in the Chandler fight. He looked awful, and he was inactive. It was his first fight back, taking a lot of damage. I'd pick Fakham to win this fight, maybe by a decision. Maybe even gets a finish. I don't know. But book this fight, UFC. It's time to give another guy a chance, in my opinion. Let's move on to the next fight I'd book. We got Scamrot versus Fiziev, the rematch. Now listen, guys. I know another rematch. I know it's annoying. But this fight feels unfinished because although Gamrot was arguably winning the first fight, freaking Fiziev blew out his knee, and he's been out ever since. And Scamrot dropped a decision to Dan Hooker, of all people. So I need to see this fight rebooked. Gamrot versus Fiziev, the rematch. They have unfinished business. Fiziev's been out forever. Surely his knee is healed by now. And yeah, I need to see Gamrot defend that number 8 spot in the division because I've always felt like Gamrot's a little bit overrated. I know you guys are going to give me a lot of crap for saying everybody's overrated, but dude, Gamrot, yeah, his best performance was against Arman Tsarukyan. Outside of that, what has he really done, you know? Submitted Jeremy Stephens? Like, ooh, Jeremy Stephens. Anyways, book this fight. I want to see the rematch. Who do I think would win the rematch? Honestly, I'm leaning Fiziev. I think he can put on a striking clinic against Gamrot and avoid the takedowns of Gamrot and win a decision. I'd pick Fiziev in this fight, but it's a close fight, and I would not be surprised if Gamrot took a decision himself. I don't see a finish in this fight. These guys are both decision fighters for the most part. Let's move on to the next matchup I'd like to see in the lightweight division. Moicano wants money, brother. I cannot afford to lose. Money Moicano versus Dan Hooker. Now listen, I know Dan Hooker fluked his way back into the top 5 at one point. He bumped out by Max Holloway to 6. But Dan Hooker's coming off 2 split decision wins against Gamrot and who else? Jalen Turner, I believe. And yeah, Dan Hooker, tattoo Dan Hooker's a different beast, but listen, brother. Money Moicano cannot afford to lose. I want to see Moicano get a jump up the rankings. He deserves it. He's been cutting his teeth, beating guys like Jalen Turner, beating guys like Benoit Saint Denis, which I know are bottom feeders of the lightweight rankings, but still, he dominated Benoit Saint Denis. That was such a good performance. I think he deserves a jump up to number 6. I know a lot of people are talking about Moicano versus Pimblett. Listen, no, I have another fight for Pimblett you're going to see on this list because Pimblett's number 13. I want to see Money Moicano versus Dan Hooker. And listen, I think Moicano would do the same thing to Dan Hooker as he did to BSD. Not as bad, but I think Moicano would dominate Hooker in the grappling. Moicano has underrated grappling. Like, I don't think he can beat like an Islam in the grappling or an Arman, or maybe even an Oliveira, but Moicano has underrated grappling. His grappling's dominant. Look at what he did to Benoit Saint Denis. I know Benoit Saint Denis is kind of exposed as a fraud now, but man, he was so dominant in that fight. He looked amazing, and he was injured, making it even more impressive. So I need to see this fight, Moicano versus Dan Hooker, book at UFC, and I think Moicano would probably submit Dan Hooker in like the second round if I had to predict. Let's move on to another matchup I'd like to see in the lightweight division. We got Paddy Pimblett versus Beneil Dariush. Now, Beneil Dariush coming off of 2 KO losses versus Arman Tsarukyan and versus Charles Oliveira. So I think you give him a guy like Paddy Pimblett, who isn't known for like one-punch KO knockout power. Sure, he's gotten knockouts in the UFC against Luis Vendramini, I think it was. But Paddy Pimblett not known for his knockout power or striking. He's known for his grappling. And who better to test Paddy Pimblett's grappling than Beneil Dariush? Beneil Dariush has some of the best defensive grappling in the lightweight division. And people want to know, is Paddy Pimblett's grappling legit? Because we saw him submit Bobby Green, but Bobby Green isn't that great. So that's not really a telltale sign if his grappling's legit or not. What better fighter than to find out against than Beneil Dariush? I think this is a winnable fight for both guys. I think Beneil Dariush is getting older. He's past his prime. So I would lean Paddy Pimblett. But I don't think believe it or not, I would pick Paddy Pimblett to outstrike an older Beneil Dariush on the feet. That sounds crazy, but Beneil Dariush is getting older, slower. He's an old man. He's going to be 36, I believe, or he might already be 36. And Paddy Pimblett just broke into the rankings. Listen, man, the Paddy Pimblett title run starts now. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I'd pick Paddy Pimblett by a decision to win this fight. Maybe old man Dariush should come back and show he still can get it done, but I'd pick Paddy. Let's move on to the next matchup I like to see in the lightweight division. We got Jalen Turner versus Grant Dawson. Now, hear me out. Jalen Turner versus Grant Dawson. They never fought each other. They're right next to each other in the rankings. I don't think either of these guys deserve a big jump up. Jalen Turner needs to fight down the rankings because he's coming off of 2 losses to Moicano and to Dan Hooker. So he needs to defend his spot in the rankings. And Grant Dawson just got a solid win. I don't think Grant Dawson should be in the top 15, but he is. It is what it is. Grant Dawson versus Jalen Turner, book it. This is a good comeback fight for Grant Dawson. Can Grant Dawson show that the Bobby Green KO was a one-off and he can deal with good strikers with power and still out-grapple him? I would pick Grant Dawson to out-grapple Jalen Turner. I think he can avoid the big KO shots on the feet. I think Jalen Turner has lost a bit of his confidence coming off of 2 losses. So I pick Grant Dawson to out-grapple and a 30-27, maybe even a 30-26 against Jalen Turner, who's going to gas out. That's my prediction for this fight. And the last matchup I'd like to see in the lightweight division, Benoit Saint Denis versus Joel Alvarez. Now listen, I don't know how Benoit Saint Denis is number 12. He's lost 2 fights in a row, and he's remained at number 12 in the lightweight rankings. You guys know I hate rank squatters. Don't be sitting on your rank Colby Covington and Michael Chandler for years. We need to see these guys drop down the rankings. If you're inactive, not fighting, or you're losing, you need to drop down the rankings. Benoit Saint Denis is on a 2-fight losing streak. And yeah, man, he needs to defend his spot. He just got destroyed by Moicano. Can Benoit Saint Denis turn it around and come back? What better way to see than against a guy like Joel Alvarez? Now, I know Joel Alvarez back in the day got destroyed by Arman Sarukian brutally, but he's on a win streak now. He looked great against Elvis Brenner in his last fight. I mean, honestly, Joel Alvarez, one of the most improved fighters. He looked amazing in his last fight against Elvis Brenner. If you saw that fight, you know. So I want to see this fight. Benoit Saint Denis versus Joel Alvarez. Give a new guy a chance to crack the rankings. Make it interesting in lightweight. I'm tired of seeing the same guys recycled over and over. Listen, I know I put some rematches together, but the rematch of Gaethje Poirier is for old heads because they're 1-1. I want to see who wins the trilogy for a send-off for Poirier. And then the rematch between Fiziev and Scamrod is because they have unfinished business. So that's my justification for those 2 rematches. That's it for the video, guys. Let me know what you think of these matchmaking. Am I the best matchmaker on MMA YouTube? Probably not, but let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for killing it on the channel recently. The new subs, all the comments, likes, and everything, guys. You guys are killing it, and I'm going to continue to drop the daily content, sometimes 2 videos a day, but no matter what, you're getting 1 video a day from me every single day. So, yeah, guys, like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I'm out. Peace out.